It's not a game, it's a rich thing.
Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I want us to take a drive through Kruger National Park. For those who don't know, Kruger National Park, it's a national park in South Africa, which is one of the biggest game park in Africa. So the park is about almost 20,000 kilometers square, which is about 7.6 square miles, and it is in the province of Limpopo and Mpumalanga in the northern eastern side of South Africa. It also extends for about 360 kilometers, which is 220 miles from the north to the south, and 65 kilometers, which is about 40 miles from the east to the west, right? So areas of the park were the first protected by the government of South Africa in 1898, and it became South Africa's first national park in 1926. So to the west and the south of the Kruger National Park are the two South African provinces, which is Mpumalanga and Limpopo, and to the north is Zimbabwe, and to the east is Mozambique. So this park also extends to Zimbabwe and Mozambique, and it also now forms part of the Great Limpopo Transfrontier Park and the Peace Park that is linked to Kruger National Park, and also the Gonarezio National Park in Zimbabwe, and with the Limpopo National Park in Mozambique. So it's like 3 parks in one, and it's called Kruger National Park. So the park is mostly famous for its big 5, which is the rhino, the elephant, the lion, the leopards, and the buffalo, right? So there's over 420 recorded archaeological sites in Kruger National Park, and before modern times occupations. Most sites, however, had relatively short occupation period, as the presence of predators and the tsetse fly limited cattle husbandry. So yes guys, let's just drive through the park. So from what I can research, or from what I could find out, right? So Paul Kruger, who was the president of South Africa at the time, proclaimed the area which was inhabited by the Tsonga people, and that is why it's called Kruger National Park. And then, although the north was populated compared to the south, many of the local natives were employed by the railway companies for construction, rail connections, notably that between Pretoria, South Africa, and Maputo, Mozambique. During the end of the 19th century, Abel Chapman, one of the hunters who noted that the area was overhunted by the end of 19th century, brought this fact to a wider attention. So in 1895, Jacob Louis van Wyk introduced the Volksraad of the old South African Republic, a motion to create a game reserve. The area proposed extended from the Crocodile River to the Sabi River in the north. That motion, introduced together with another Volksraad member by the name of R.K. Loveday and accepted for discussion in September of 1895 by a majority of 1 vote, resulting in the proclamation by Paul Kruger on the 26th of March 1898 of a government wildlife park. This park will later be known as the Sabi Game Reserve. The park was initially created to control hunting and also to protect the diminished number of animals in the park. James Stevenson Hamilton became the first warden of the reserve in 1902. The reserve was located in the southern 1/3 of the modern park. During 1923, the first large group of tourists started visiting the Sabi Game Reserve. only as part of South African Railways' popular round in 9 tours. The tourist trains used the Salati railway line between Komati Port on the Mozambican border and Tzaneen in Limpopo province. The tour included an overnight stop at the Sabi Bridge, now called Skukuza, and a short walk escorted by armed rangers into the bush. It soon became a highlight of the tour, and it gave valuable support for the campaign to proclaim the Sabi Game Reserve as a national park. So between 1926 and 1946, after the proclamation of the national park in 1926, the first 3 tourist cars entered the park in 1927, jumping to 180 cars in 1928 and about 850 cars in 1929. Warden James Stevenson retired on the 30th of April 1946 after almost 45 years as a warden of the Kruger Park and its predecessor, the Sabi Game Reserve. In 1996, the Maluleke tribe submitted a land claim for about almost 20,000 hectares, which is about 200 kilometers squared, namely the Pafuri or Maluleke region in the northmost part of the park. The land was given back to the Maluleke people. However, they chose not to resettle on the land but to engage with the private sector to invest in tourism. This resulted in building of several game lodges from which they earn royalties. In the late 90s, the fences between the Kruger Park and the Glacier Game Reserve, Olifants Game Reserve, and Balule Game Reserve were dropped and incorporated into the Greater Kruger Park, with about 400,000 hectares added to the reserve. In 2002, Kruger National Park, Gonarezo National Park in Zimbabwe, and the Limpopo National Park in Mozambique were incorporated into a peace park, that Great Limpopo Transfrontier Park. In 2009, SANParks, a 4-star hotel northeast of Malelane on the bank of Crocodile River, as part of survival strategy to make the park less dependent on state subsidies. Eventually, Radisson Blu was mandated to operate a 104-room safari resort starting in 2019, which promises a smaller ecological footprint than that of prior existing camps. The 3-star 128-roomed Skukuza Safari Lodge, to be completed by late 2018, was necessitated by the adjacent Nombolo Mdluli Conference Center, opened in 2011, which draws guests arriving by charter flights or in tour buses. Former head of the park, Solomon Jourbet, warned that these developments threaten the character, ethos, and original objectives of the park, but Minister of Environmental Affairs Edna Molewa deemed development of about 0.3% of the park as acceptable. The park was temporarily closed due to COVID-19 pandemic on the 25th of March 2020, and it was reopened again on the 8th of June 2020. Like I said before, the park lies on the northeast part of South Africa, in the eastern part of Limpopo and Mpumalanga provinces. Phalaborwa, Limpopo is the only town in South Africa that borders the Kruger Park. It is one of the largest national parks in the world, with an area of about 20,000 kilometers squared, which is about 7.6 square miles. The park is approximately 360 kilometers long and has an average width of 65 kilometers. At its widest point, the park is about 90 kilometers wide from east to west. To the north of the south of the park, 2 rivers, the Limpopo and the Crocodile River respectively, act as a natural boundary. To the east, the Lubombo Mountains separate it from Mozambique. Its western boundary runs parallel with this range, roughly about 65 kilometers, which is about 40 miles distant. The park varies in an altitude of about 200 meters in the east and about 840 meters in the southwest near Bergnedal. The highest point in the park is here, a hill called Kadzelive. Several rivers run through the park from west to east, including the Sabi, the Olifants, the Crocodile, the Litaba, and the Ruvubu and Limpopo rivers. The climate of the Kruger National Park and Lowveld is subtropical, specifically a hot semi-arid climate. Summer days are humid and very hot. The rainy season is from September until May. The Kruger National Park website lists September and October as the driest period. Because the park spans 360 kilometers or about 220 miles from north to south, climate can vary throughout the park. Skukuza is the southern part of the park and is about 2 to 3 degrees, which is about 3.6 to 5.4 Fahrenheit cooler through the year than Pafuri in the north, which significantly more rainfall. The park ecosystem is subject to several threats, including intensive poaching, urban development at its borders, global warming and droughts, animal overpopulation, and mining projects. Light pollution produced by rest camps and nearby towns affect the biodiversity of the Kruger National Park. In particular, it alters the composition of nocturnal wildlife and the hunting behavior predators. Kruger is not exempt from the threat of poaching that many of other African countries have faced. Many poachers are in search of ivory from elephant to rhino horse, which are similar to composition of human fingernails. The park's anti-poaching unit consists of about 650 SANParks game rangers, assisted by the South African Police Service and the South African National Defence Force, including the South African Air Force. As of 2013, the park is equipped with 2 drones borrowed from Daniel and Oro Gazelle helicopters donated by the RAF to augment its airspace presence. Automated movement sensors relay intrusions along the Mozambique border to control center, and also a specialist dog unit has been introduced. Buffer zones have been established along the border with Mozambique, from where many poachers have infiltrated the park as an alternative to costly new fences. The original 150-kilometer long fence were dropped in 2002 to establish the Great Limpopo Transfrontier Park. The National Anti-Poaching Committee oversees all activities and coordinates interested parties. Kruger Big Game Poachers operate with night vision instruments and large caliber rifles and fitted with suppressors and sophisticated telescope sights. They are mostly Mozambique citizens that initiate their carefully planned incursions from the border region of South Africa and Mozambique. In 2012, some 200 poachers were apprehended while other 30 were killed in skirmishes. In July 2012, a Kruger game ranger and policeman were the first to die in an anti-poaching operation, while other employees reported intimidation by poachers. A Kruger personnel strike affected some anti-poachers operations, and some employees have been directly implicated. Rangers in and around the park have been pressured or blackmailed by poaching syndicates to provide intelligence on the whereabouts of the rhinos and anti-poaching operations. In December of 2012, Kruger started using Seeker 2 drone against rhino poachers, and drone was loaned to South African National Park Authority by manufacturer Denel Dynamics South Africa. I really hope this game drive that we just took together was very informative. Thank you for watching, and see you in my next video.